Hello and good morning. Thank you for joining and being with us again here today. Today we'll be talking about asking God the why question. We've been discussing our responses in times of trial and when we feel distant from God. And today we will discuss the why question. Today we'll continue in Psalm 42. We'll be reading from verses 6 to verse 9. My God, now I am deeply discouraged, but I will remember you. Even from the distant Mount Hermon, the source of the Jordan, the land of Mount Mizar, I heard the tumult of the raging seas, as your waves and surging tides sweep over me. But each day the Lord pours out his unfailing love to me. And through each night I sing his songs, praying to God who gives me life. O God, my rock, I cry, why have you forgotten me? Why must I wander in grief, oppressed by my enemies? There's so much to unpack in these few verses, but today we'll be focused primarily on what is perhaps often the most natural response in times of difficulty and trial, and that is to ask, why? The psalmist is going through intense suffering and speaks of the waves and billows. And anyone who has been in a boat through a storm or being tossed around by the waves of the ocean knows that feeling of powerlessness that can quickly overtake us. When I was young, we lived in Australia for a few months, and we would go to the beach where there were these huge and powerful waves, and they would catch us and spin us head over heels. And while we were in the waves, no amount of fighting or kicking would help. We were powerless. And this is often how it feels when the waves of worry and trial in life overtake us. We are caught up and swept away. There's nothing that we can do. We're just powerless, or at least that's how it feels. And in these times, we often ask, as the psalmist does, my God, my rock, why have you forgotten me? Why must I wander around in grief? When we are grief-stricken, we just want to know why. Often we don't get an answer, and as far as we can tell, the psalmist doesn't get one, at least not here. His question, why have you forgotten me, is clearly not meant to be taken as a statement of fact, but as the way that something feels. And this is often how we describe and question. It's not that we really mean it, but it is how it feels. And we know that this is what the psalmist is doing because in the verse before, he talks about God pouring out his unfailing love day and night. But still, sometimes it feels as though we have been forgotten. And in these times when we are hurt and confused, sometimes we say things that we don't really mean, but that do describe the way that we feel. And we must be gracious in these times, both to ourselves, but especially to other peoples who are going through hurt and grief. During this time, we must respond with grace and understanding. What is needed is not nitpicking and making sure that all the right things are being said, but giving hope and comfort. And we see this especially in the story of Job, as his friends tell him all of the right things, but they still miss the point. When we're caught up in ocean waves in Australia, we soon learned that it was better to relax and simply hope that we would be eventually turned right side up, being able to grasp for some air and gasp above into the oxygen finally. And sometimes when we're in trouble, we must fight for hope. But we must realize that we cannot and must not try and fight God. We must trust that he will bring us to safety, to a place of hope, to a place where we can praise him and again be filled with joy. And throughout all of this, it is okay to ask these questions. The psalmist asks so many questions and is honest about the way that he feels, but also balances that with hope, with asking and recognizing God's love for him throughout all of it.